Did Caitlin? Whoa, wait a minute. Let's see this. Caitlin say, "Don't touch me." Did Caitlin say, "Don't touch me"? Now look at Kelly and Amber right there in the stands, front and center, to watch this exchange. Look at what you guys created. Kelly and Amber, look at this.
She pulled her hand away. That was the moment everything changed. One small gesture caught on a dozen different phones in Seattle Arena, and suddenly the entire conversation around the Indiana Fever shifted overnight. Because when a generational talent physically recoils from her own head coach in front of the team president and the general manager, that is not a bad night. That is not frustration over a missed shot, that is a message. And the message was loud enough that front offices around the league are already paying attention.
Any coach. And I made a video yesterday, and I say Stephanie White is looking a lot like Doc Rivers. She's not Phil Jackson. We want a Phil Jackson, Kelly and Amber. What happened when you go to work every day and your job is not catering to your needs or catering to what your strong suits are? What is you going to do? You're going to upload your resume to an employment website, and you're going to...
So, what is really going on behind the scenes in Indianapolis? Why does the most marketable athlete in women's basketball suddenly look like someone who has run out of patience? And why are insiders quietly whispering that this story is only just beginning? Before we go deeper, do me a quick favor. If you enjoy stories like this one, hit that like button and subscribe so you do not miss what comes next, because the next few months in the WNBA are going to be wild, and you're going to want to be here for every twist. The footage from that Seattle game is something you have to watch more than once to fully appreciate. Caitlin Clark is walking toward the bench. Stephanie White reaches out, almost instinctively, the way a coach does when they want to redirect a player or smooth over a moment of visible tension. And Clark, without saying a word at first, just pulls her arm clean out of the coach's grip, then her lips move. Fans sitting courtside swear she said the words, "Do not touch me." Whether those exact words were spoken or not, the body language did the talking. Her shoulders, her posture, the way she stepped past the coaching staff without making eye contact, all of it pointed to a player who had finally decided she was done pretending. And sitting in the front row, watching the entire thing unfold in real time, were Kelly Krauskopf and Amber Cox, the two executives most responsible for what this franchise becomes. They saw what every fan with a camera saw, and they cannot pretend they did not. Here is what makes this moment so important. Clark spent her entire rookie year absorbing hits that would have ended other player seasons. She took flagrant fouls, hard screens, cheap shots, and constant media scrutiny, and through all of it she kept her composure. She defended her teammates. She praised her coaches. She gave the kind of polished professional answers you expect from a veteran, not a first-year player. So when someone with that level of discipline suddenly shows visible frustration on national broadcast, you have to ask one question: what changed? Because composure like hers does not crack over nothing.
Guys, this verbatim. Caitlin Clark has an issue, and we can't forget about this one here. This is the original one. Look, when I seen this, I say, no, it can't get worse than this. It cannot be worse than this. But Caitlin Clark snatching her hand out of Stephanie White arms and finger grips let me know this isn't just a frustration at the moment or a frustration over the play. This is a frustration with the coach.
Something inside that organization pushed her to a breaking point. And the people who follow this lead closely are starting to piece together exactly what that something might be. That brings us to Stephanie White. On paper, she has a respected name in women's basketball. She has a resume. She has the experience. She has the credentials. But credentials and fit are two completely different things. And that is where the comparisons to Doc Rivers start to make sense. Rivers has spent decades being called one of the great coaching minds in the NBA, but his actual track record with superstar talent has often been complicated. Players have spoken openly about feeling unsupported, miscommunicated with, or asked to fit systems that do not match their natural strengths. Phil Jackson knew how to build an offense around Michael Jordan. Steve Kerr understood how to unlock Stephen Curry. Greg Popovich figured out how to maximize Tim Duncan, and later Kawhi Leonard, the best coaches in basketball history, did not force their stars into rigid systems. They built systems around what their stars did best.
During the Colin Cowherd show, Caitlin Clark is Michael Jeffrey Jordan on steroids. Guys, the thing about it is that Caitlin Clark's performance on the basketball court and her making that overtime lets me know she's another caliber. And to me, she might damn near be better than LeBron when you come to clutch, when you come to performance, when you come to getting crowds into it, when you come to personality. She might be better than LBJ. I just gotta be honest. That's how profound this young lady is.
Caitlin Clark is LeBron James. You cannot like that, but the data and the ratings overwhelmingly reflect that she is the celestial object that everyone else rotates around.
Exactly.
Okay? This is not particularly complicated. The WNBA's refusal to acknowledge this is symptomatic of their woke mind virus and their identity politics. And they don't want, this is the truth, they don't want a white, heterosexual woman to be the face of the WNBA.
And right now, the question being whispered inside basketball circles is whether Stephanie White is doing that for Caitlin Clark or whether the Fever is watching a slow-motion mismatch play out in front of the whole league. Think about it from Clark's perspective. You are the most watched player in your sport. You are breaking records that have stood for decades. You are filling arenas that have not been full in years. And every night you walk into a locker room where the game plan does not seem to fully leverage what you do better than anyone else on the planet, you would be frustrated too. And when frustration builds long enough without being addressed, it eventually shows up on camera. That Seattle moment was not the start of the story. That was the moment the story finally became impossible to ignore.
She is sick of it, and she is standing up to these people that is trying to diminish her. And crazy as it may seem, I'm interested to see the exchanges between Caitlin and Stephanie in the next game. And as bad as this is getting, I need to take a trip out to Indy and attend the game. And I'm telling you right now, I'm going to an Indy game very, very, very soon. And I want to witness with these two eyes what I see.
Now, here is where things get even more interesting. While all of this is unfolding on the court, a quieter story has been developing online. Caitlin Clark's brother has reportedly engaged with multiple New York Liberty social media posts over the past several months. We are not talking about random likes on unrelated content. We are talking about engagement during the exact window when fans were openly campaigning for Clark to be drafted somewhere other than Indianapolis, and again during the period when Santi Brondello, the Liberty's head coach, was being praised for how she manages elite talent. Family members do not casually leave digital fingerprints during sensitive moments unless something is on their mind. And in a world where every like and every follow gets screenshotted within seconds, those small signals start to look a lot less small. Now combine that with what we are seeing on the court and a pattern emerges. A frustrated star. A family member quietly signaling interest in a different city. A coaching dynamic that looks more strained every week. None of these things individually mean anything. But all of them together start painting a picture that the Fever front office cannot keep ignoring. Because in professional sports, public signals from a player's inner circle almost always mean something is happening behind the scenes. And right now, those signals are getting louder. And then, just when you thought the situation could not get more complicated, the league office decided to step into the spotlight in the worst possible way.
I think it's because she's white. I can't believe I have to say this, and it's embarrassing. Caitlin Clark is the straw that stirs the WNBA drink. Any game that she plays in, her image should be used to sell the fact that the game is going on. Period. End of story. Just like Michael Jordan, just like LeBron, just like Kobe. There's no way on earth that this was anything other than intentional. The WNBA seems obsessed with telling you, yeah, but there's other players, which is fine. Michael Jordan made every other player famous. The reason people cared about Patrick Ewing, by and large, he played against Jordan. The reason why people cared about Reggie Miller, he played against Jordan. Same thing true of Kobe Bryant. Same thing true of LeBron James. Everybody got more famous being...
The WNBA's marketing department released a promotional graphic for an upcoming game featuring the Indiana Fever, the game Clark was set to play in, the game her presence was going to sell. And somehow, in a decision that defies basic business logic, her image was left off the graphic entirely. Read that sentence again. The most marketable player in the league, the rookie who has single-handedly rewritten the financial trajectory of women's basketball, was missing from the marketing material for her own game. That is not an oversight. That is not a graphic designer's mistake. Promotional materials at the league level go through layers of approval. Multiple people see them. Multiple people sign off on them. And not one of those people stopped and said, "Wait a minute. Should we not be featuring the player who is actually drawing the audience?" The reaction online was immediate and brutal. Fans called it disrespectful, analysts called it confusing, and a growing number of voices started openly questioning whether the league is intentionally trying to downplay the star power of its biggest draw. Because once is an accident, twice is a coincidence. But when the pattern keeps repeating, when graphics keep leaving her out, when promotional pushes keep splitting attention across multiple players who do not move a needle anywhere close to the way Clark does, you start to wonder whether something deliberate is happening. And that question, fair or not, is now part of the national conversation. Let's pause for a second. If this story is keeping you locked in, drop a comment below and tell me what you think. Is this all coincidence, or is something bigger happening here? I read every comment, and I want to hear your take before we get to the part most people are not talking about yet. Because now we have to talk about the numbers. And the numbers are the part of this story that the league simply cannot spin. Games featuring Caitlin Clark have averaged roughly 1.2 million viewers during her rookie campaign. Games without her have averaged closer to 440,000. That is not a small bump. That is not a marginal improvement. That is a 173% jump in audience whenever she steps onto the court. Road arenas that use a play in front of half-empty crowds are now selling out months in advance. Prices on the secondary market have tripled, quadrupled in some cities, gone up by even more. Merchandise sales across the entire league spiked by over 500% after she was drafted. Television rights conversations that used to be afterthoughts are now major business stories. Every single financial metric that matters in professional sports has been transformed by her presence. So the league has a choice to make, and it is not a complicated one. You can either ride your superstar and let league benefit from the rising tide she creates, or you can resist centering your sport around her and watch the commercial momentum slip through your fingers. The NBA figured this out decades ago. Michael Jordan made every player around him more famous. Patrick Ewing's career profile exploded because of his battles with Jordan. Reggie Miller became a household name because of his playoff wars with the Bulls. Kobe Bryant elevated the careers of countless teammates and rivals. LeBron James has done the same for an entire generation. Superstars do not diminish the players around them. They amplify them. They create attention that everyone else gets to share. And Clark is offering the WNBA that exact same opportunity, right now in real time. But for reasons that remain a topic of intense debate, the league seems hesitant to fully embrace it, and that hesitation has costs. Real measurable financial costs sponsors notice when a league does not fully promote its biggest asset. Television partners notice when the marketing does not match the audience data. Players around the league notice when the star who is filling their paychecks is not being treated like the star she clearly is. And eventually that star notices too. Because Clark is not naive. She sees the graphics. She sees the marketing decisions. She sees how her name gets handled in league communications. And whether anyone wants to admit it or not, that awareness is shaping how she thinks about her future. Which brings us to Team USA. And this is the part of the story that people inside the league are quietly losing sleep over. This summer, Clark is expected to spend extended time with the best players in women's basketball across every single franchise. She will be in locker rooms with players from New York, from Las Vegas, from Minnesota, from Seattle, from Phoenix. She will share meals with them, practice with them, travel with them. And during all of that time, she is going to learn something that no scouting report can teach her. She is going to learn how other organizations actually operate, how other coaching staff communicate, how other front offices treat their stars, how other cities embrace their biggest names. And once she knows what good looks like, she will instantly know what she is missing. This is not just basketball development. This is a month-long, behind-the-scenes interview process. And the Fever front office has no control over what she hears, what she sees, or what conclusions she draws. They cannot script those conversations. They cannot edit those experiences. They can only hope that what she finds out there does not make Indianapolis look smaller by comparison. Because if it does, the social media activity from her brother starts to look less like idle speculation and a lot more like advanced planning. Smart families do not stumble into franchise-altering decisions. They prepare for them. And here is the piece of this story that almost nobody is talking about. Caitlin Clark has something that most professional athletes never get. She has leverage. Real, structural, undeniable leverage. Her endorsement portfolio dwarfs her WNBA salary by an enormous margin. She is locked into long-term deals with some of the biggest brands in the world. Her financial security does not depend on any one team, any one league, or any one season. She could step away from basketball tomorrow and live comfortably for the rest of her life. That kind of independence changes everything. It means she does not have to accept dysfunction the way other players historically have had to. It means she can push back. It means she can make demands. And it means when her body language tells you she is done, she has the resources to back that energy up. The WNBA has never had to deal with a player like this. Historically, players in a league have needed the WNBA more than the WNBA needed them. Modest, endorsements were limited, and the leverage flowed from the top down. Clark has flipped that entire dynamic on its head. The league now needs her far more than she needs it. And every executive who watched that Seattle footage understands that reality, even if they will never say it out loud. You cannot mistreat or mismanage a player with that kind of power and expect there to be no consequences. There will be consequences. The only question is what form they take and when they arrive. So what happens next? That is a question every fan, every analyst, and every front office in the league is now asking. If the Indiana Fever makes real, substantive changes, if they reevaluate their coaching dynamics, if they build a roster that genuinely complements Clark's skill set instead of forcing her to adapt to a system that does not maximize her gifts, then maybe she stays. Maybe this becomes the story of a franchise that finally figured it out. Maybe Indianapolis becomes the next great basketball city, with Clark at the center of it all. That is a version of the story everyone in Indiana is hoping for. But there is another version. A version where the tension keeps building. A version where the next viral moment is worse than the Seattle one. A version where the marketing snubs keep happening, the coaching disconnect keeps deepening, and the quiet signals from her family keep getting louder. Every team in the league starts preparing for the possibility that the most valuable player in women's basketball might one day be available. New York would be ready, Las Vegas would be ready, half a dozen other franchises would be ready. They would all show her exactly what a properly run organization looks like, and they would all sell her on a future that Indianapolis failed to deliver. And honestly, that is what makes this story so fascinating. We are not just watching a coaching disagreement, we are not just watching marketing controversy. We are watching the early stages of what could become the first true superstar-driven organizational overhaul in WNBA history, a moment where a single player's leverage finally forces an entire league to evolve. And whatever happens next, whether the Fever course corrects or whether Clark eventually makes her exit, the ripple effects will be felt for years. Because once a league learns that its biggest star can demand better, every star that follows will expect the same. The footage answers the small question. Yes, there is tension. Yes, something is wrong. Yes, Clark is frustrated. But the real question, the one that matters most, is whether the Indiana Fever values keeping their franchise player more than they value protecting their current structure. Because, increasingly, it looks like they are going to have to choose. And if they choose wrong, the entire trajectory of this league could shift in ways nobody is fully prepared for. So what do you think? Is Caitlin Clark on her way out of Indianapolis, or will the Fever finally wake up and build the kind of organization a generational talent deserves? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I want to hear what you think happens next. And if you made it this far, you already know what to do. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next update on this story. Because believe me, this one is far from over. One way or another, something has to give. And when it does, you're gonna wanna be here to see it unfold.